That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is Commissioner Cooper. And guess what? Football's back. And you know what that means. It's Friday night and we're feeling all right. It's time to break it down a full week one for the first time this season. It's time for TSS Fantasy.
Yeah! Here we go!
It's time for TSS Fantasy. It is Commissioner Cooper.
I could do a whole 49er show right now.
Ready to rock out with my gavel out.
Oh yeah, baby!
Don't sleep on my Patriots, you know.
And we're ready for football. Is that
Joe Burrow with his wrist? I'm curious.
I find you guilty of all charges.
although you consistent force in this
I listed out some really great guys.
DJ Chuck Bass.
This guy has been doing it ever since coming off.
I hope you like the way I pimped
He's
you
made
out.
4 targets in all 3 of the last
Game for the touchdown this year.
You know, the great thing about being a football player is you don't have to take a shower to go to work.
There it is.
Get your shoes, dancing shoes on. It is Friday night. We're feeling all right. You're here with the Friday Night Delight. It's Commissioner Cooper, and I got to my left or your right, whatever it is, Justin Jesus Herrera. Welcome to the studio, sir. On mute, sir, on mute. Starting out.
It's exciting, you know. We're back in football season, and this Brazil game sucks ass right now because it's like they're playing on a soccer field. What do they expect? They're not ready for like that. It's not meant for big 300-pound linemen be digging into that bitch. But they're getting it. They're getting it. We'll see a tush push eventually, hopefully. See what this new center's got.
I can audibly hear, my wife's outside watching the game, so I can audibly hear the reactions of what's going on. And I already heard a tush push happen, and it sounded like they didn't even get it. So crazy enough. All right, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Obviously, we got live football right now. I got my phone on the other side of the room, and I can't get to it, and it's ringing. My apologies for the background noise. Let's pay the bills first, however. If you are going to play daily fantasy, use Underdog Fantasy and use our promo code TSS. We're going to double that deposit up to $100. Touchdown Eagles, I can tell by my wife's reaction.
In the corner.
Nice. All
That's
right.
when I said, "Oh, I was ready for you to be like, what happened?" But then you just kind of went on.
I can hear. Yeah, I got it all worked out. If I can't see it, at least my wife's reactions, I can hear it. It's great. There we go. I can hear Eagles son in there too, announcing everything. It's great. Go to Pro-Am Belts for your championship bling. Look no further than them. They got some great products for you to check out, some amazing belts they have. So go check them out. And if you're watching on YouTube, do us a solid. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, get a comment, all those good things. We'll answer your fantasy. If you have any fantasy lineup questions, we can answer them now. But on Sunday morning, that's our real that's the real fantasy show. That's the real time we do the starts and sits. So be sure to put in your starts and sits now or put them in Sunday, either or. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have. All right, guys, we're going to get things started tonight off with a little news. Well, we got live football right now. That would mean the Eagles are up 7-6 since they just scored. They had 2 field goals by the Packers earlier. But let's talk about last night. I'm going to talk about last night. That's the way you kick off football right there. A great game. The AFC Championship rematch. Chiefs prevail 27-20. So I wanted to start off the show by saying this. If you had players either the night prior or or tonight and they're struggling, it's okay. Don't worry. It's a long season ahead of you. But there is some things to take note of from last night. Mahomes, 291 yards, 1 TD, 1 pick. That's not our usual Mahomes type performance, but that'll get back, I'm sure. Pacheco, 45 rush yards, 1 TD, 3 receptions, 33 yards. Kind of Xavier Worthy, ooh-wee, only 2 receptions, but made the most of them. 47 yards for a TD, and he had 21 rush yards on that 1 TD run he did. Rashee Rice, 7 receptions, 103 yards. So great night, Rashee Rice. Xavier Worthy and Ray Rice and Rashee Rice both look very fast, and that's very dangerous in this Chiefs offense. So here's where the concern is. Kelsey, 2 receptions, 34 yards, and his backup, Noah Gray, 3 receptions for 37 yards. He had more than not only Travis Kelce, he had more than Mark Andrews on the other side. We'll get to that in a second. Lamar Jackson, 273 yards, 1 TD, and man, did he look good running across that football field. Problem was that he had more carries than Derrick Henry. So that, again, I don't think they can sustain that formula all year long. But 122 rush yards and a TD. Henry, as I mentioned earlier, 46 yards, 1 TD. No reception, but was targeted twice. So keep that in mind. But they really targeted Justice Hill. Wow, 6 receptions, 52 yards. Put him in your flex spot in a PPR. You're looking okay there. Isaiah Likely. The Andrews owners are likely to be upset about their pick for Andrews because, wow, 9 receptions, 111 yards and a TD. Zay Flowers, 6 receptions, 33 yards. Didn't do much with what he got, but he at least caught it. Rashad Bateman, 2 receptions, 53 yards. And I mentioned Mark Andrews, the 2 receptions, 14 yards. So, Justin, what do you make of last night's game? And is there anyone in particular, fantasy-wise, you're concerned or excited about?
Yeah, I'm really concerned about anybody who's not named Zay Flowers or Isaiah Likely right now. The Ravens, they kind of looked a little bit pedestrian. Lamar did not look comfortable all day long throwing the ball. He often, tried to do Mahomes shit and is not really as good as Mahomes to do Mahomes shit. As a quarterback, at least. As a runner, he's magnificent. But as a quarterback, he's kind of very pedestrian. But you got to love what Isaiah Likely put out there, because here's a guy, and I was tripping out when people were like, don't draft Isaiah Likely. I was just like, no, you saw his numbers last year when Andrews was gone, and he still had big numbers when Andrews was there too, when he came back in the postseason. Like, you don't leave a guy like that who had 6 touchdowns in like 5 games played on, just to be drafted by somebody else. And it proved why. I think he's actually going to end up being like the wide receiver 2 for this team, to be honest with you. They had him out wide multiple times. He moves really well for a tight end. He's not truly fast, but he's got some real good separation to him. And as we saw, he's got a little good Olay to him, so he can stop on a dime, let somebody run past him, and then just scoot right in for the end zone. Derrick Henry looked a little slow to me. I don't know what it was, but he just did not look like the Derrick Henry of old, running into people. And then on the other side, I'm worried about Travis Kelce, because I'm worried they're not going to need him. And I'm worried that they're smart enough to be, we'll use you when we need you. Because that's kind of how the Chiefs work. They kind of just save what they can for later. They did it last year. And I'm worried that anybody who picked Travis Kelce up this year thinking they got a bargain may have not gotten a bargain, because he might finish in that like tight end 6 or 7 range, and you were drafting him 2 or 3. So that might be a little bit of an interesting dip. And then Rashee Rice, pending his suspension, he looks like a really good week-to-week option, like phenomenal football player. Gets open all the time. He's going to be in that slot role. I love him in that slot role. I love slot receivers because they have the easiest matchup, and most of the time you stick somebody who's really good at separating in the slot, and you're just going to be getting 7-8 yard dink and dunks for 10 yards every single time. So that's 2 points in a PPR format for me every single time they touch the ball. Gotta love it. Xavier Worthy. Can't complain about his performance. I do wonder if it's sustainable with Hollywood Brown there. But I will say this. You didn't really expect anything else from the fastest guy in the NFL other than to be a boom-bust guy. There are going to be weeks where you're going to be sitting there going like, man, he only got 1 ball for 40 yards. Like, ugh. But if he had a touchdown on there, you're going to be like, fuck yeah, 1 catch for 40 yards and a touchdown. That's 11 points. That's great for flex. So that's just kind of the role of it. I mean, Devon Achane is the same way. If he doesn't go off, he's a disappointment. So it's kind of just that little area right there. I think Rashee Rice is definitely the more stable of the two. He's definitely going to be targeted at least 10 times a game. But it's going to be interesting to see how it works with Hollywood Brown. And one last take. I was wondering about this, and it came true. the Chiefs players can be good without Patrick Mahomes being good. And mark my words, Patrick Mahomes was not good last night. He was okay. He was good enough to win, but he wasn't Patrick Mahomes that we've seen win MVPs.
That is so true. And that's what I was saying in that first piece, even the stat line. That's not a normal Pat Mahomes stat line. It could have been, of course, first game jitters, all that. But that's a great Ravens defense, too, not for nothing. So, 27 points against one of the top defenses in the league, not too shabby. But of course, we just expect greatness from the Mahomes and the rest of the crew. I just will finish with this. God, that speed looks really scary. And I don't necessarily know about the Derrick Henry slow thing. I will just say, I think it was, and I apologize, I didn't put the stat line. I think it was 11 carries. Really? Like Derrick Henry, 11? And you rushed Lamar Jackson 16 times? Now, I get they kept talking about all night Lamar's kind of calling his own offense. And he seems like he's just calling his own number, which is understandable because he feels comfortable in that. But he can't sustain that all season. That's the bottom line.
Hey,
all right.
Note here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jaden Reed, big time player. Anybody who was talking about Jaden Reed not being good when Christian Watson came back, zip your mouth, son. He just took himself for at least, I think, a 25-yard touchdown right there. Big play by Jaden Reed.
And to follow that up, actually, in this game earlier, he had a touchdown that got called back, and it was pretty much almost all him. He caught it around the 10-15 and broke a couple tackles to get in. But there was offsetting penalties, didn't count. So it could have been 2 TDs so far for Jaden Reed. So he hit the nail on the head there. All right. Well, again, you're giving us the live update right there. So I guess that would mean at 13-7 right now with the Packers over the Eagles. Extra points still pending, obviously, as well. Looking at the stat line real quick. It's not coming up for me for some reason. Here we go. Jaden Reed, as you mentioned, he's got the 1 reception for 33 yards and the TD. As I mentioned, could have had 2 receptions for 50-something and 2 TDs at this point. So good stuff there. Actually, that was a run. My bad. I apologize. What you just saw was a rush. My bad. I kind of rushed to judgment there, so to speak. Romeo Doubs has caught 2 passes so far for 29 yards in this matchup. And on the Eagles side of the ball, Jalen Hurts really struggling to start, but starting to find his groove a little bit. Right now, he's got 48 yards, 1 TD. He threw a bad pick earlier, and he fumbled earlier as well. Saquon, 5 rushes, 13 yards. So it feels like we're going back to that Derrick Henry theme. Got to start feeding these guys the rock. That's what you brought them there for. Hello. All right. Well, that's the rest of that. Just a note. I noted on my sheet that Marshawn Lloyd was officially out this game, but that doesn't help anyone because we're on live. But just note and non-big player news, if you have Matt Gay as your kicker, watch out to start him. He's the starting kicker of the Colts. He might be out for this particular matchup. I know we don't usually talk kickers. I just want to throw it out there since you might have one. All right, unfortunately, Brian could not come here. He's got a lot of medical procedures to take care of, unfortunately, so we couldn't get him live tonight, but he was good enough to do a little video for us. So we're going to check out inside the medical tent to get our latest updates on some key injuries.
Dylan just went into the medical tent a moment ago.
What's up, everybody? Brian Scott, host of the Injured List podcast. Here is your Inside the Medical Tent injury updates for week 1 of the NFL regular season.
I would like to drink a cup of coffee.
Let's get things kicked off with Justin Herbert. He's been dealing with a bout of, quote, plantar fasciitis, unquote. But when asked about it by reporters, John Harbaugh was quick to say that he cannot answer any questions because he is not qualified to do so, which was quite humorous. So he missed a couple of weeks because of this, then returned on August 19th and has been practicing ever since, but has been listed on the injury report. He was in a boot for 2 weeks prior to that, but it sounds like this is nothing serious. They were doing that as a precautionary measure so that things don't trickle into the regular season here. Although with plantar fasciitis, this can rear its ugly head at some point again, so that will be something to keep an eye on. Assuming he made a full recovery, though, he should be good to go week 1. At the running back position, we have Marshawn Lloyd, who was dealing with some type of hamstring injury, which the team called a grade 1 strain. I'm very suspect of this because it's not typical to have a grade 1 strain of the hamstring. Typically, these are more to the moderate severity. So I do think that he's probably more injured than what they're letting on, which could be a problem as they are down to just one healthy running back in Josh Jacobs. I think that if he is used this week, it'll probably be in a limited fashion during short yardage or blocking schemes. I don't look for him to have any type of explosive participation off the line of scrimmage, so keep an eye on that. This could be something that lingers for several more weeks if it is, in fact, more serious than they're letting on. At the wide receiver position, Keenan Allen has been dealing with a heel issue because of some cleat problem that he has experienced earlier this week, but he was limited in practice and seems to be doing well according to all reports and showing no signs of any ill effects. He should be good to go. Ricky Pearsall shot in the chest during an attempted mugging while in San Francisco. Crazy story. Somehow escaped major injury. He has been put on non-football, physically unable to perform IR, and will miss at least 4 weeks. But I do expect him to make a comeback at some point this season, assuming that no major vital organs were hit and he did not require any major surgery. Jalen Waddle's been dealing with some type of undisclosed injury for which the team has been very hush about, but it sounds like whatever it was more of a precautionary move, and he should be ready to go in time here for week 1 with no lingering effects. As predicted last night, Marquise Brown did not play. I still think it'll be at least a week or two before we see him take the field for any meaningful practice in preparation for game participation, as he is returning from a sternoclavicular joint dislocation. It's been about a month now, and I originally predicted anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks, sticking to that prediction. Josh Downs has been dealing with a high ankle sprain for the past 4 weeks, which is not unusual. In fact, I think he'll probably take at least another week or two as he's yet to return to practice as he tries to rehab from this high ankle sprain. They were terming it mild, but my experience, there's no such thing as a mild high ankle sprain. Almost all the time, these are at least moderate severity, which means at least 4 to 6 weeks. And trying to come back too soon could spell disaster. I think they're doing the right thing. I'll say probably at least another 2 weeks. Mike Williams is coming back from an ACL reconstructive surgery he had after he tore his ACL in week 3 of last year. He really hasn't played much meaningful football since 2022. He's been activated off the PUP list and has been practicing so far and has been cleared to play, but the Jets have already made an announcement that they're taking him back into action with a snap count, so I don't expect to see him doing any type of meaningful contribution on the field of play for at least a few more weeks as they ramp up his snap count. Brandon Cooks has been dealing with some knee soreness for several weeks, but it doesn't sound like it's anything serious. Along with that, he was also dealing with some personal issues, but he's since been removed from the injured list and should be a full participation in week 1. At the tight end position, Kyle Pitts was dealing with some hamstring issue. Sounds like it's probably just some soreness, and as a precautionary move, they had him limited in practice the other day, but it sounds like he's been quoted as saying he's ready to go and this is nothing serious. Brock Bowers has been dealing with a foot injury that he sustained in the preseason week 1 game. As a precautionary measure, head coach Antonio Pierce said that they're keeping him out of action during practices leading up to week 1 so that he didn't hurt himself and that the injury itself is nothing serious. He will be ready for week 1 and should be a full go. As always, thanks for having me on the show, TSS Fantasy. For more injury updates and analysis, go to the Injured List podcast on Instagram and Facebook, www.injuredlist.com, and on X, you can find me at InjuredListPod.
Dr. Michael Hutchison has harnessed the latest in neuromuscular dentistry and impact technology to develop a mouthguard that does more than protect. It enhances. NeuroGuard Plus isn't just a mouthguard. By focusing on the jaw's physiological position, it provides an added layer of neuroprotection, significantly reducing the risk of sports-related neurological injuries. All athletes should be using a custom mouthguard designed to their bite position. NeuroGuard Plus was created as a means to maintain your physiological jaw position regardless of your bite. The appliance is designed to optimize your upper-lower jaw relationship to improve your strength, your balance, your oxygen intake, and drastically lower your chance of a concussion. Independent studies have shown that the NeuroGuard Plus will provide you with improvement to both upper and lower body strength. The same improvements were not present with a common mouthguard. Over 6,500 athletes have used the NeuroGuard Plus. Dr. Hutchison is happy to say that the amount of diagnosed concussions is 0.2%. The NeuroGuard Plus offers athletes, coaches, and parents an advantage to keep their players safe on the field. If you or your child actively participates in athletics, they need to be protected from the dangers of repetitive head trauma. Get your NeuroGuard Plus mouthguard today. Click on the link and use code ILPSports for 10% discount on your purchase.
And if you're looking for a live update, the Eagles are in the red zone right now. Watch out. Here we go. Got another great game going on. All right, it's week 1. You know how we do. It's time.
Breakdown! Bring it on down! Breakdown! Bring it on down! Bring it on down!
Well, too bad Freddie's breaking on down for fucking Beetlejuice because he's a preschooler. All right, let's get things started tonight. I actually kind of want to see it too, Fred. I'm just busting your chops. All right, let's get started tonight. We're going to start out with one of the high-powered matchups of the weekend. Panthers at the Saints. Now, this is all based on last year. Obviously, the defenses have changed, so we'll see. But last year, Panthers against fantasy QBs, numero uno last year. I had to recheck that. I was like, what? Running backs 27th, I guess because, everyone was up and they just ran on them. Third against receivers and 5th against tight ends, so a decent secondary, to say the least. Saints 6th against QBs, 5th against running backs, 10th against receivers, and 15th against tight ends. All right, so, instead of doing the normally like we used to do, give me, just start them all. Give me some guys you think will make some big impacts on Sunday.
Wow, I kind of feel for Fred right now. I'd rather be watching Beetlejuice than talking about the Saints and Panthers. Saquon Barkley scored for a second touchdown. Let's go.
Wow. Saquon owners, rejoice.
Saquon, I'm so glad I'm not facing him this week. I'm sure I'm facing him somewhere. But, I don't know. This is one of those games that I look at it and I'm going, I don't want to start anybody from this one. I kind of just want to see what happens. It's like I've got a little bit of vested interest in Bryce Young, and I still have a Kamara share here and there in Dynasty. So I'm not super invested. I'll be invested more when Jonathan Brooks is back and hopefully smashing his way to a late Rookie of the Year candidacy. But until then, I don't really care. Is that a really good answer for it? But, it's for the fans. It's for the fans. So for the fans, I'll say this. I don't really care. No, honestly, though, if you have Kamara, I'd probably start Kamara. Olave seems like a good pick. Weirdly enough, Derek Carr seems like not a good pick ever. And then, like I said, Bryce Young, if you have to play him, I would. If you can sit him and see what happens, I would do that. But, other than that, I'm not a big Deontay Johnson fan right now. Adam Thielen, sure, maybe he has something left. Probably not. But, like I said, bench him and see what he's got and then move forward with that information. There's no point in losing week 1 by starting guys you wouldn't start every other week. You know what I mean? You start the guys that you drafted first and you leave the bench on the bench. Like,
that's
no
such a great. Go ahead. My bad.
No, I'm sorry. No point in putting Adam Thielen is all I was going to say.
No. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. So fact of the matter is, you're hit the nail on the head again. I actually, all the teams, I didn't even look at the lineups this week because I never adjust. There's no reason to. I drafted who I drafted, and they're going to go. Obviously, if there's an injury now, mind you, but that's who I drafted. I'm going to let them play this week, and exactly what we kind of see where the cards fall. In regards to this game, however, I think the best way to put it is to say lack of playmakers against some pretty okay defenses. These, they're middle to average if you weigh it out the best. The Saints, though, at home are really good, and that's why I'd be afraid to start anybody from the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard does come to mind because it seems to be that guy for them for right now, dealing with the injuries, and Miles Sanders is Miles Sanders. So I think if there's someone on the Panthers, I might look at for a flex spot. Might be Miles Sanders. I'm not real excited about either, as you mentioned, either guy, either Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, whatever. Name the receiver on the Panthers. I'm not excited quite yet, obviously. Alvin Kamara, like you said, you've drafted him. You got to start him. And the Panthers, no matter what, last year I talked about how good their defense was against the pass. Well, against the run, it's horrible. So, again, that's based off last year's metrics. If that's the case, Alvin Kamara obviously has a good game. And as you mentioned, I think, somebody else that might be somebody if, and again, you drafted him, but Taysom Hill could be that one guy you could sneak in there. But that's a very risky play, however, because if he ends up not doing anything, we talked about Achane a minute ago, same deal, you're not getting much at all out of that position. So just a couple of guys that, you could maybe want to throw in your flex, and obviously you got the starters in that one. But again, you got some lack of playmakers and some pretty decent defenses playing. All right, Justin, we're on fire tonight because we're going to start next with the Vikings at the Giants. Last year against the QBs, the Vikings were 16th. Against running backs, they were 14th, 28th against receivers last year, and 9th against tight ends. Giants, 14th against QBs, 15th against running backs, 27th against receivers, and 6th against tight ends. Could we see a fantasy bonanza in this one?
No. I mean, it's possible, but once again, am I starting Sam Darnold? Am I testing the waters with Daniel Jones? Probably not. And that could come back to bite me in the ass. I'm and best ball is the only place I really have drafted Daniel Jones, because I'm like, if he has a great week, then guess what? I didn't have to take a chance on him, and it's already baked into it. So I'm like, sure. But for me, I look at it as obviously Justin Jefferson. You put him in there because you can't not. You can't not. 100%. Malik Neighbors. I like Malik Neighbors. I've said it plenty of times on here. Daniel Jones could throw 2 touchdowns to Malik Neighbors and throw 5 interceptions. Guess what? It doesn't affect Malik Neighbors' score that he threw 5 interceptions. It's the 2 touchdowns that count. So always remember that when you're thinking about fantasy. If there's an elite talent on the other side, Odell Beckham had to deal with Eli Manning's ass for a long ass time. Eli Manning was never really that great of a fantasy quarterback. There's great fantasy receivers that have had to deal with terrible fantasy quarterbacks before. So I look at it with that. Malik Neighbors, you draft him too high, you can't not put him in. Devin Singletary is the one I will say maybe sneaky little flexy right there, because Minnesota's defense, a little bit weakish. Daniel Jones, he's been known to throw the ball a little bit to the running back position. And Devin Singletary, this is the offense that he was a part of for so many years in Buffalo. Jaden Reed, touchdown again.
That quick?
Jaden Reed catching touchdown this time. Him and Saquon are on the same trajectory right now. 2 touchdowns, 2 different ways. Let's go, Jaden Reed.
Wow.
Let's freaking go.
Wow. So the Packers must have went for 2 earlier, by the way. It's 14-12, but with that, obviously, that changes things a bit. All right. So, to go back to what you're saying, the fact of the matter is we talked about the other game having lack of playmakers. I feel like other than Malik Neighbors, what else do they have essentially on the Giants other than you mentioned Devin Singletary? Daniel Jones might not be the greatest QB, but I mean, who else do they have? They got to get this man the balls because they really don't have much else, quite frankly. On the other side of football, obviously, Justin Jefferson. I don't know if I'd play Aaron Jones, but I wasn't a drafter of Aaron Jones, so I'm not sold on him. Obviously, if you have him, you're going to play him, period, as we mentioned earlier. So what am I telling you? But I wasn't a big fan of his. By the way, Jordan Addison is a go for this game as well. So you do have Jordan Addison in effect as well. And listen, we talked about Daniel Jones. Somebody else you didn't mention, Sam Darnold on the other side of football. And no matter how bad of an NFL QB he is, he could be having okay fantasy day because, when we got in the arguments with Freddie about Tua, like I used to say, my 5'4" ass could line up on the dot. I'm 5'7", excuse me. I always said 5'4", but I could line up and throw Tyreek a screen pass and have a good fantasy day. So the bottom line is, I think Sam Darnold might have a decent fantasy day because Giants D is not that great against the pass, and the fact of the matter is, you've got the best receiver. One of the best receivers, in the league. So, Sam Darnold might be an okay play if you're in super flex or something. I mean, I'm not going over anybody else, but
I was going to say, if you're down to Sam Darnold and super flex, man, make sure you go to church that day because you're going to need a lot of prayer power for that one, man.
Listen, that is coming straight from Fantasy Jesus. So that's what that tells you. All right, let's go to the next barn burner, and then we're gonna start getting we're gonna start getting some good ones after this. All right, Patriots at the Bengals. Patriots last year had an okay D, 9th against QBs. They were 16th against running backs, 18th against receivers, and 2nd against tight ends. Bengals 22nd against QBs, 19th against running backs, 21st against receivers, and 31st against tight ends. Do you think anyone on this Patriots squad has any kind of day against the Bengals? What do you think?
Coop, do you watch Rich Eisen?
I do. Yes.
Did you watch Today's Show or
I don't know if it's Today's Show?
But it was Most Likely, the one that he does with Brockman. And so one of the questions was, what's more likely, the Bengals score more touchdowns or the Patriots score more points? And I said to myself, well, let's just get this out of the way real quick. If you're a Bengals guy, you're obviously starting Burrow, you're starting T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase is not there, so you're shitting your pants wondering if he's actually going to show up for the game. But just remember, Sleeper's got that new auto thing where you can pick a substitute player for him if he doesn't show up for the game. But I'll tell you what, the one guy I'm also looking at is Chase Brown. He is the one guy that I'm really thinking about flexing this week because, if Jamar Chase is not there, there's going to be some targets to be picked up. And I know they got the new kid, Jermaine Burton. I know they got Andre. I'm not going to say your last name just for purposes of not trying and making a miserable opportunity out of it. Io Vasquez or something like that. I tried anyways. But anyways, I think that this guy Brown has got a little bit of juice to him. I mean, we're talking about Zach Moss and I don't know why anybody thought Zach Moss is actually going to be a guy. Like, come on, dude. He hasn't been a guy his entire career. He had a couple good games behind the Colts offensive line. Come on now. He's not going to be a guy. But this Chase Brown kid, he really intrigues me. On the Patriots side, it's really kind of injustice that Ramondre Stevenson has to waste his career in that uniform because I really do think that this guy could be somebody if he was somewhere else. Just anywhere else, he could probably be a really good running back. You have to play him because you drafted him high. I wouldn't expect too much from him. And then until Drake May gets there, don't play any of the receivers. Just don't try it. I mean, just hope for the Hunter Henry share that you have in best ball to pull through. But just don't try it because Drake May is going to be the guy who opens it up. Jacoby Brissett. I love Jacoby Brissett. I thought, the world of the guy when he went to Indianapolis. Guy is not it. And he's not going to be it going into his year, 10 season or something like that. He's not going to be it.
You ever watch Fat Albert when you were a kid?
Yeah, a little bit.
I feel like Jacoby Brissett reminds me of a character from there. I mean, and I mean that in the best respect, but the bottom line is my boy tried to tell me Jacoby Brissett was, when he started with the Dolphins, was some kind of upgrade to them. Like, are you joking me right now? That guy looks confused every time he's out there. I'm done with Jacoby Brissett. It's basically, to me, it's the Patriots taking a knee on the season. That's basically what they're doing. Obviously, I like the Chase Brown thought, because not only what you mentioned, but obviously the Bengals are going to be up big and they will be running the football later. So I like the Chase Brown take, and you're going T. Higgins. Now he does have some little stuff going on. So, make sure you watch, but it looks like he's a go for that. He popped up on the injury reports. Well, I think it was maybe a hamstring, but nothing that was big. And obviously the situation with Jamar, I've read a few articles going one way and the other, so I don't think anybody really knows. So, you got to have faith, I guess, in what you have and just hope for the best for this Sunday. But I would definitely have an alternate plan in place. And there's just honestly nobody on the Patriots that I'm even considering, even as bad as the Bengals D was last year. This offense looks horrific. All right, let's step it up a notch. Let's go. It's just a notch one. Steelers at the Falcons. So the Steelers, like last year, 13th against QBs, 20th against running backs, 15th against receivers, and 23rd against tight ends. Falcons 19th against QBs, 4th against running backs, and 4th against receivers, and 22nd against tight ends. All right, tell me some good stuff. Give me some guys that are going to go off on this game.
I like Drake London. I do like Bijan Robinson, but I think he's going to do more as a pass catcher than a rusher against this defense. Kyle Pitts, even with the hamstring thing, I just don't want him in this game. Their safeties, Minkah Fitzpatrick, it's too good of a matchup. I think that they're probably going to try and take advantage of the outside with Drake London. And then, for the Steelers side, I don't like really anybody. It's hard because it's like, Pat Freiermuth seems like a good option. And then you remember that, the Falcons had a pretty good secondary last year, and, George Pickens is not a good separator. He's more of a good high pointing guy. And Pat Freiermuth, he's kind of a slower guy. He's a real consistent guy. He's like a Jason Witten, but honestly, there's nothing truly special about him. Najee Harris could have the Bijan effect where he catches a lot of passes. If I'm owning any Steelers stock in this game, I'm not real happy about it. And, I'm playing the Najees and I'm playing the Pickens because I spent the pick on them. But I'm really just hoping that they show me something, because I don't think it's going to be a good game for Pittsburgh. And I think it's going to be an omen for how bad Pittsburgh's going to be this year, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. I just don't think this offense has it. And I think it's probably going to be the first bad year for Tomlin.
The only thing I'm going to say is that with the talk of them possibly putting in Justin Fields in this game, I think personally that Justin Fields, as far as NFL is concerned, average to maybe sometimes he's above average QB, but in fantasy, he's a great QB, very Lamar-like in the sense though how much he runs. Getting him in the dome on I don't know. Just my thought is possibly we could see a good Justin Fields day. If that's the case, if that's who ends up, I don't know if I would go as far as to say that affects a lot of because I feel like it's more, like I said, Lamar style where he's going to run, and that's where you're going to see a lot more of the points. But if it's Russell, Atlanta's D is okay. It's not that bad. And, on the other side, obviously a lot of excitement for this offense with Kirk Cousins adding, he's an above average QB. And especially when he gets streaky and gets, and it's his first game there. Pitts, I know, had that lingering hamstring, but he should be good. Drake London, you got Bijan, a lot of excitement about this offense. So I'm excited to actually see how this game plays out. But, if Justin Fields goes, that would be my Steeler that I would be leaning on in this matchup. All right, let's get to the Texans at Colts. Texans last year, 25th against quarterbacks. They were 15th against running backs, 14th against receivers, and 29th against tight ends. The Colts, 18th against QBs, 30th against running backs, 12th against receivers, and 12th against tight ends. I'm laughing because I'm getting a text from my son. His first year he's playing fantasy, and he has Saquon, so he's getting all excited. And I try to tell him before, don't get excited about how these percentages start playing out because, there's been many a time I've been up on a Thursday and lost, and many a time I've been down on a Thursday and won. So, who knows? But anyway, all right, who shines in this matchup here?
I'm loving just about all the Texans in this one, and for different reasons. I'm loving Tank Dell because I think he's going to be getting the receptions. I think Nico is going to be a lot of like the red zone targets. So I think that's a great one to have on there. And then I think Diggs will probably mix in a little bit of both. I think he'll probably end up getting a touchdown as well as some a healthy dose of targets. And then, Joe Mixon, he's the one I'm kind of a little iffy on. The Colts have notoriously had a very good front seven. At least they have excellent tacklers when you look at Zaire Franklin and you look at DeForest Buckner. They've got a nice plan of attack for the run game. I think it might be a little bit of a rough game for him, rough opening for him. I like Stroud, obviously, since I like all three of his receivers. Dalton Schultz, got to show me something. Got to show me that you can eat in this massive offense. So I'm iffy on him. He's firmly my backup. He'll take a seat on the bench. On the other side, you gotta love Richardson because you were just talking about Fields. Richardson. He is a Russian quarterback. He had 2 good games against Houston last year. Coincidentally, 2 of the 4 games he played last year against Houston had big games in both of them. And, he's still got Pittman. He's still got JT. I wouldn't imagine that JT has a bad game. And it's going to be interesting to see Pittman in him because I don't know if he throws it enough to sustain Pittman, if that makes sense. The Colts have always been weird about like getting their tight ends touchdowns when you think they should go to like the right people like Pittman. You know what I mean? They'll get it to Mo Alley Cox who won't see the field for like 6 more weeks. You'd be like, what the fuck what did you just do? What did you just do?
I'm glad that you said that because that's like a perfect segue to what I was about to say. Teams that have these big three receivers, it scares me to get a receiver from one of these teams. And with the same respect to what you're saying, just like we're talking about Kansas City, Xavier Worthy looking amazing, but you got Hollywood Brown coming back. You got Rashee Rice looks good. So this is why though, I always say, and I've always said it when this 0 RB trend coming around, I always go running back first because that's your meat and potato. And some of these receivers that were ranked high, it's a crapshoot sometimes. Next week, maybe it's someone else on the Chiefs. And the same respect with the Texans. It makes me nervous, any of these guys, quite frankly. But I know starting like I have Tank Dell in one league, I'm starting him with confidence because I'm praying like we're getting some because when they go off, they go off. So I love CJ Stroud. Obviously, as you mentioned, Anthony Richardson looked very porous in the preseason throwing the football. However, like you said, on the ground, he's obviously going to get his. And Jonathan Taylor always eats, but this Texans D is okay versus the run as well. So, but obviously starting Jonathan Taylor. But I got no sneaky play for you in either of these matchup. There's nobody here that I'd be like, oh, maybe throw this guy other than those main guys. Josh Downs was Anthony Richardson's favorite target. He's not going to play this game. So, that would be probably the only guy I'd probably even mention in here. Other than that, you got like superstars on the field. So what the hell am I going to tell you? All right, let's go to the next one. Cardinals at the Bills. So this is going to be, I think this is going to be that fantasy extravaganza game I'm hoping for anyway. I'm excited for this. Cardinals, porous defense last year, 26 against QBs, dead last against running backs, 16th against receivers, but they were 8th against tight ends. That's because everybody else was eating. The Bills, they're 7th against QBs, 18th against running backs, 6th against receivers, and 17th against tight ends. And they took a step back this year in the offseason with this defense. So, all right, man, but give me what you like in this one.
I can't find anything I dislike in this one. I'll tell you this. Start everybody but maybe Keon Coleman and Curtis Samuel. Because I think Khalil Shakir is going to surprise you as a lead receiver here instead of Curtis Samuel. I think a lot of people have been hyped up on Curtis Samuel. Khalil Shakir is a very good slot receiver. And guess what? Slot receiver is kind of taking over the mold of the new wide receiver. But love Kincaid, love McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. God, load these guys up on your DFS because it's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, let's go. There's nothing to tell you here. James Cook would be somebody I'd mention though as well. Going to have a decent game. I mean, you just name it. I think you're going to get a good game. I love your take though. I'm glad we're in the same mind frame because I know our boy Later has got a little take on Curtis Samuel. I just don't see it. I've just never seen it. Why? When it was Curtis Samuel good?
It's one season. It's one season.
Years ago, right?
Yeah. Well, everybody's hyped because it's the same offense he did when he had that one season. So everybody's just like, oh, he's going to do end arounds for days and he's going to be Deebo Samuel again. It's like he was never Deebo Samuel. He just had a couple of rushing touchdowns. He was never that way. Curtis injured way too often.
Curtis Samuel had his own feature with Brian, and every season it's something with Curtis Samuel. And it's always seemed to be there was the groin, and it's this and it's that, bro. Yeah, no Curtis Samuel, none. Don't do it. Don't hurt yourself. Don't go chasing him neither if he happens to have one lucky game. The Eagles must be doing something because my wife is going off. All right, Titans at the Bears. Oh, she's upset. Titans against fantasy QBs last year were 10th, 8th against running backs, 26th against receivers, numero uno against tight ends. Bears last year pretty porous against QBs, 23rd, 24th against running backs, 9th against receivers, and 24th against tight ends. I know both defenses have made some improvements, especially the Titans in the secondary. But what do you think of this matchup?
Actually, low-key, I really like this matchup. I think the Titans have some really good weapons there. One guy I'm putting in my flex is Tajay Spears. Let's not forget, they brought in a offensive coordinator, and his father is the former offensive lineman, like an offensive lineman guru, Bill Callahan. They want to run. They want to get back to their identity. So I'm looking at it like Tony Pollard ain't no fucking hard-hitting runner. He's the scat back in the background. But Tajay Spears, that's a hard-hitting runner. That's a guy who was taking some touches away from Derrick Henry. So I think that he's got a good chance to possibly go off in this game. Calvin Ridley, play him. And then on the other side, the Bears, I would actually play the Bears defense in this one. It's going to be a tough one. Bears defense looked really good down the stretch when they were trying to make a playoff run. And, they got some good corners, some lockdown corners. I think Ridley's going to be able to make enough out of it to make something work for fantasy, but doesn't say that, like I said, Will Levis can easily throw 2 interceptions. That could be a great day for your defense. Caleb Williams, first game. Don't think about the first game jitters. I think he's got it. I think he's got enough weapons around him to make something happen. And I think it'll probably end up being a pretty good game for, if I had to guess, probably be a pretty good game for Keenan Allen, because he's not the number one, but he still moves like a number one. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Rome Odunze wows us for a big play. I don't think he'll get the touchdown, but I think he'll definitely wow us for something like a 50-yard catch. Get our juices going and get us going, ooh, do I want him in there for the future? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Titans, like I said, have made some improvements in their secondary. So I could see, I'd be nervous to start Caleb in his first game. I know they're at home, so that does help a little with the pregame jitters, if you will. But I'd just be a little nervous about him. DJ Moore, all the receivers, I'm actually just a tad nervous about, to be honest with you. I see this more, to be honest. It ends up, no matter they have some good playmakers. I feel like both of these defenses, though, may win the day. So I feel like this is going to be one of those field goal type games. To be quite frank, it's kind of what my thoughts are on that one. All right, let's go to the game of the day with yours truly. Will be in attendance. The Jacksonville Jaguars at America's team, the Miami Dolphins. Last year, Jaguars 29th against QBs, 17th against running backs, 23rd against receivers, and 15th against tight ends. America's team was 20th against QBs, 11th versus running backs, 19th versus receivers, and 21st against tight ends. I feel like the Dolphins have stepped back a little on the defense. And the Jags, we talked about it on the summer tour, did basically nothing in the offseason. So what are your thoughts? I feel like this could be a fantasy extravaganza. What do you think?
Yeah, if I were to have like a Midwestern theme to it, like a Western, I'd say it's my bang bang shootout of the week. But yeah, I love everybody in this game. This is one of those games where you can't go wrong. I mean, I'll even say this. I'll throw Brian Thomas in there just for the hell of it, just for the big play opportunity. He looked good in the preseason. So I would just go with everybody. Anybody you have that has a Dolphins or a Jaguars, abbreviation next to them, just put it in your lineup, because I think it's gonna be one of those games where everybody's just gonna get fed. It's gonna be right down to the wire. It's gonna be like fucking 35-38, some massive fucking scoring. Tyreek Hill is actually, I'm thinking he's gonna have a banger of a game. I'm thinking like 150 and 2 touchdowns. I know that just fucking stands you up like a.
I'm ready. But don't let it slip, bro. Don't. I don't know. We got a Sunday show to talk about the picks, but I already seen your pick, bro. So I'm already looking at you like I got something special for you. Don't you worry. All right. So yeah, I ditto what you said. That's why I mentioned the defense. Obviously, took a little step back. I think I like the Brian Thomas take because they've traditionally struggled against bigger receivers. Quite frankly. So I love that take. Christian Kirk, again, has been hobbled a little bit. So I'm not necessarily nervous to start him, but I would just watch, how much usage for him would be my main thing with that. But yeah, start them all. Achane, get him in there, get in Mostert, which I find it silly. If you look at our rankings, I have Mostert above Achane because I'm not a silly person, and I know who's going to get the ball more and not betting on the big play. So if you want to do your rankings correctly, fantasy world, Mostert should be above Achane every fucking week. You guys are silly. But yeah, everyone else, I love it. There's no like third receiver right now. I would say could be that definite guy because I'm not sure what Mike McDaniels
Braxton Berrios?
No. I'm surprised he made the roster, to be honest with you. He dropped one in preseason. I really texted my boy. I was like, that's the last play for Braxton Berrios, bro. But I guess they, whatever. Anyway, so, there's no like sneaky on the Dolphin side, quite frankly. There's nothing other to say. Maybe Jalen Wright possibly gets in there for a big play. Again, it's really far and few between. You just put the big starters in, and that's it. America's team, baby. All right, before we get on to the 4:00 games, it's time to call order for the first fantasy court of week 1. Here we go. Judge Jordan.
My opinion's the only one that counts.
You may be seated. Welcome back to the Fantasy Court. We're a little bit tired this morning as we watched Isaiah likely have the greatest game of his career last night and still fall short to the defending champions Kansas City Chiefs. And speaking of defending champions, we wouldn't have them without the defending runners-up, the San Francisco 49ers. And today we would like to call to the stand Mr. Brock Purdy, who is no stranger to this court. Mr. Brock, you are brought before this court today as you were drafted this season to be a QB1, where you finished last year as QB6 overall. Unfortunately, in week 1, you draw a very stout Jets defense who doesn't do a whole lot right, but damn can they stop opposing offenses, and quarterbacks specifically, as they gave up just 12.1 points per game to fantasy quarterbacks last season. Now, you also have to consider they play in the same division as the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, and America's team and America's quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa. Despite playing them 25% of the season, the Jets absolutely shut down opposing quarterbacks last season. Additionally, two of your star players, Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams, they don't even really want to be there. They're like a Cowboys fan on week 1. I'm not ready. Anyway, thank God for CMC. Thank Fantasy Jesus for CMC, because he should help propel the 49ers to victory despite Brock Purdy's struggles all week 1. Brock Purdy, I find you guilty, and this court determines that you are not to be started in week 1 against the Jets. This court is adjourned. And just remember, folks, if your fantasy performance comes up short, I'll see your ass in court.
If playing done, or it's not an act.
All right, Judge Jordan, some new digs for the 2024 season. All right, gotta love it. Appreciate you, brother. All right, let's go Broncos at Seahawks. I forgot you got your boy Brock Purdy on the stand today. Broncos against fantasy QBs last year were 21st. They were 31st against running backs, 11th against receivers, and they were dead last against tight ends. Seahawks 17th against QBs, 29th against running backs, 22nd against receivers, and 19th against tight ends. All right, who's your standouts in this one?
I just want to say this. Fantasy Jesus will not be blessing Dak Prescott this one. Not this week, son. Not this week. I'll go with Geno Smith, baby. Geno fucking Smith. Let's get down. They got a new offensive coordinator. They got a new mind in the Seahawks organization. It's not going to help them because they're still going to be finishing third in the West. But for this game against the Broncos, I love it. I would love it even more if they did it against Russell Wilson. But guess what? He proved to be smelly old trash, so he's out the door. And yeah. Let's double down on DK Metcalf. And here's one for you. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Put him in your flex. I love his value. Bo Nix. What do you think of Bo Nix?
Meh.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. My problem is I feel like this might be one of the few weeks, if you have him, that he might be okay. Nobody has tape on him. He's kind of a rushing quarterback. I'm thinking he's borderline flex. If it's between him and Bryce Young, I'm putting him in over Bryce Young. But yeah, and over Derek Carr, and over Dak Prescott. No, what did I just say? But yeah, outside of that, Broncos wise, Broncos country could just go take a hike at this point. Maybe Cortland Sutton as a flex. If you're feeling, like you want to go gamble, Cortland Sutton. But if you're smart, probably not.
I think to your point, Bo Nix might not be a bad play if it goes the way you think it is, and Geno Smith is going off. They're going to have to throw the football to keep up with this game. So yeah, it's not a bad call. I like Kenneth Walker in this matchup too. Broncos have not been very good against running backs, being almost dead last against them. So I like to see a good Kenneth Walker day in this matchup. But like you said, DK, dial him up. Geno Smith, I can definitely see some hookups to him to DK. And let's see if Tyler Lockett can just do something. like us last year, bro. Damn, he was Mr. Consistent too. That's why it was such a disappointment last year. So let's hope that we see somewhat of an emergence of Tyler Lockett, but I'm not so confident in that one. But Kenneth Walker would be my guy out of that matchup. Let's go the Raiders against the Chargers. If last year Raiders were 8th against QBs, they were 21st against running backs, 13th against receivers, and 14th against tight end. Pretty solid defense overall. And with all the playmakers the Chargers have on defense, 28th against QBs, 22nd in running backs, 29th against receivers, and 20th against tight ends. All right, we got Harbaugh in the house. So what do you say? Who stands out in this matchup?
So my sneaky sneak play of the week is J.K. Dobbins. I love this play, son. I love this play, son. And it's not just because you hate him so much. It's because the Raiders are going to be on defense so much. I'm not even joking with you, Commish. Listen, my extended family, my in-laws love the Raiders. It breaks their heart because they're probably one of the 5 people that are actually watching this when I say this. The Raiders are gonna fucking suck on offense. I'm just being honest here. You know, you got Devontae Adams, great weapon. You've got Zamir White. Okay, sure. You've got one of the best tight end of the draft this year, Brock Bowers. Great. You got Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell throwing the ball. Yeah. They just made the list too as guys that I would start Bo Nix over if you had them. I hope you don't have them, but if you do, I would start Bo Nix over them. On the other side, my boy Ladd McConkey, start him up. Josh Palmer, like that one too. And then Justin Herbert, start him up, baby. But I would probably say because it's Harbaugh, probably temper expectations to your second QB slot.
Bandy, what's up? We got a couple more games. We're gonna play the Flex Start of the Week, the brand new one for 2024. Appreciate you popping in. We were just talking trash on Curtis Samuel, so I wish you'd have been around for that. He's a Curtis Samuel lover. All right. What game were the hell? Raiders against the
Chargers. Raiders.
Let me rewind it back a little bit. So my take on this is that I totally agree. I feel like we're agreeing all night. I don't think much of the Raiders offense. And look, the Chargers, like I said before, they have a ton of playmakers on defense. I feel like maybe Harbaugh could be that guy to kind of put things together here. And again, the only thing that concerns me would be the Justin Herbert injury. That's one of those things that could, I know Brian was half asleep, but he's mentioned that that Justin Herbert's injury.
Get some coffee, Brian. Get some coffee, bro. He's doing a great job out there, but you can see he's fucking tired. He's had a long night.
I appreciate you so much, bro. But
love you, Brian.
Bro. He looked like he just woke up.
We love you, Brian. I hope all the surgeries went well.
I hope he wasn't working on my knee that day. Thank God. Oh my God. Oh, all right, Keith. My bad. Benny was in here. My bro. He said, "Bruh, Curtis Samuel to the moon."
That's the only place he'll be good at football.
He loves some Curtis Samuel. I just don't see it. Okay, so Josh Palmer, yeah, I don't like J.K. Dobbins at all. If it was anyone, I'd say Gus Edwards. If anyone, because I will never say anything positive about J.K. Dobbins ever. And again, I'm a little concerned about Justin Herbert injury, and especially this defense can get after people with Max Crosby. So if Justin Herbert's limited in his mobility, could see some issues with this. So I feel like it's going to be a surprisingly low scoring game, if I'm being honest. All right, let's go. Cowboys at Browns. Cowboys, again, 12th against QBs, 10th against running backs, 7th against receivers, 10th against tight ends. Browns, 5th against QBs, 7th against running backs, number 2 against receivers, and 7th against tight ends. What do you say? Who do you like? What's going on in this one? Said you will.
Love me some Jerome Ford. I don't like either of the quarterbacks. It's the only, and it's like both the quarterbacks are technically supposed to be really good. And both finished top 5 at some point in their careers. Deshaun Watson has completely fallen off the map. He is just fallen straight into the abyss, trying to dig his way back up. But, and Dak Prescott, to me, I just think the matchup is really bad. He's playing a team that's actually good, and he doesn't really do well when teams are good that he has to play against. Plus, CeeDee Lamb, I don't know if he's up to snuff right now with, his conditioning. It's something I worry about Brandon Ayuk as well. So, I kind of look at all that information. I go, the Browns defense has been the most consistently good for the past 5 years. Like, Myles Garrett has just continuously gotten better, and the Cowboys, they've gotten worse. They got worse by choice because they decided to do nothing. I mean, they decided to do nothing, and they have a certified, like, worn out tire in Ezekiel Elliott. And then they have Rico Dowdle, who's probably his Madden score is like 66. And then they have Deuce Vaughn, who's like 5'6". It's just line it up.
Oh my God.
Where's the production coming from? So I'm out on the Cowboys in this game. I think they're gonna get their ass shellacked in this one. I think the Browns are gonna handle them.
And I will just say, let's not also forget this will be a revenge game for Mr. Cooper. So could be a little something dialed up for Amari. Well, could be a decent play. We'll see. What's up? Love seeing you. Have a good time, Coop. Appreciate you, Bandy. It's always a good time, bro. Especially when we got a flex star of the week to look forward to. I just can't wait to play it. I'm excited. All right. Oh, we're talking about your Bucks now, too. You might as well hang out. Commanders at the Bucks.
AJ Brown touchdown.
Oh, nice. Touchdown. See, I yelled it. She doesn't know yet. We're on a little bit of a delay. She's going to be pissed. All right, let's go. What we're talking. Commanders at Bucks. 31st against QBs last year, 28th against running backs, 31st against receivers, and 4th against tight ends. Bucks last year, 27th against QBs. They were 3rd against running backs, 25th against receivers, and 30th against tight ends. Who stands out to you in this one?
Well, first off, I think this is the first of many Commanders wins this year. I think the Bucks take the big old L this year. Not this week. No, I'm on saying that because Bandy's got him with a W in the comments. I like this game for both quarterbacks. I think Jaden Daniels, I think the rushing upside for him is strong, and this Bucks defense is kind of a little bit deteriorating. They're just finally starting to do a rebuild on it, something they've been long overdue for. On the Bucks side, I like Baker. I can't quit Mike Evans. Chris Godwin still got that slot presence in a PPR. And then, one of my heroes, Rachaad White, he helped me out last year. I repaid him by drafting him again. I really do. I think that Rachaad White he's the truth right now for them at the running back position. Everybody's getting on their high horse about Bucky Irving. I've seen Bucky Irving at Oregon. He isn't better than Rachaad White was at Arizona State. It's just they're not the same athlete. They're not. So I'm gonna go with, I think that you're better off starting more Bucks than Commanders in this one. But start your Terry McLaurins and start your Jaden Daniels for sure.
So this is funny. This is funny, Bandy. Baker Mayfield, top 10 QB. Come on, bro. Like, listen, now, mind you, I have grown a lot of respect for Baker Mayfield, and he definitely has stepped his game up. Top 10, though, homie. I mean, come on now. Come on, bro. I can name probably 15. No, I'm just kidding. Godwin will surprise you, he says, but I don't think Godwin's a big surprise. I have a lot of Godwin because a lot of people slipped on him this year, playing in the slot. I like Godwin a lot this year.
Well, Godwin finally
exactly. That's my point, bro. That's my point. Not top 10 though. You right outside of top 10, a little bit.
Will Godwin finally go for over 5 touchdowns? Like, Jesus, dude. This dude's always got like 130 targets, and he pulls his best Julio Jones. He can't get double-digit touchdowns to save his life. Come on, Godwin.
but allegedly, he's playing in this new offense as the Cooper Cup in this, so I like that aspect of it. So I just think he could have a good year because that's where he's thrived at. So I do like Chris Godwin. I actually agree with our boy Bandy on that one. All right, let's go to the Sunday night game, Rams at Lions. Rams 24th against QBs last year, second against running backs, 24th against receivers, and 27th against tight ends. Lions were 30th against QBs, number 1 against running backs, 30th against receivers, and 11th against tight ends. Give me some guys you like in this one.
I like Jameson Williams. I like Jameson Williams as a surprise. And then on the Rams side, I think this could be a big Puka Nacua game. I think a lot of people are really hyped up on Cooper Kupp being back, but I think Puka is for real, and I think that the corners are still going to give Cooper Kupp the respect of giving him the number 1, which is going to be helpful for Puka going forward into the season, because I think he's going to be able to battle it out with the number 2s, and if they put him into zone coverage, he's just going to find that middle of the zone where that's a little soft part where he can go and make a nice catch and get some yardage. So I'm all on Puka and Jameson Williams in this one. Oddly enough, I think that this is going to be a real good battle. I think this is going to be a close game. I don't know if I want Stafford or Goff in this game because I don't think they're going to put up the numbers that you need. And if you've drafted them as your number 1, sure. But if you've got another option out there that's, not Baker Mayfield. No, I'm only kidding, Mandy. But if you got another option out there, I'd probably go with the other option because I think that this one's going to be one of those games. I think Jahmyr Gibbs will probably have himself a time, and if he does, I think David Montgomery is going to do well, especially with Aaron Donald out of the middle. I think a lot of people are really thinking this Rams run defense is still going to be the same as it was in the past. I don't think that's the truth. I think their passing defense is going to be good, but not their run defense.
Yeah, so I love every part of this game. I'm actually excited to see it. I was excited to watch the NFC Championship last year with both these teams in it. I think both these offense can definitely eat in this one. I like that. I like Kyron Williams in this matchup as well. Maybe even little sneaky play because Sean McVay seems to love this Blake Corum guy, so it might be somebody that could break out or something. Who knows? Because you know how weird this guy is with his running backs, so you never know with Sean McVay. And on the other side of the football, listen, I'm all in on Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm all in on, obviously, Amon St. Brown. There's nothing I don't really like in this one for me. I think this could be that fun Sunday night game and nothing but back-to-back scoring, quite frankly. So I think I like it all in this one, to be quite frank with you. All right, let's finish things up with the Jets at the 49ers, the stinky Jets. They're number 3 against receivers. 3 against QBs, 26 against running backs, number 1 against receivers, and 26 against tight ends. Last year, Niners, number 4 against QBs, 13th against running backs, 20th against receivers, and 13th against tight ends. Give me some standouts other than 49ers in this one.
So I will agree with the judge on this. I think that Brock Purdy is going to have a little bit of a rough time connecting with his outside receiver. I think it's not going to be a perimeter game. If you want a game to start Debo and to start George Kittle safely, this is the game. You're not going to get Sauce Gardner versus Brandon Ayuk. It's not going to turn out very well. I would say that's the one worry I have, is that Brandon Ayuk is going to have a stinker of a first game back. I have not been brave enough to sit him yet, but I am definitely considering it. And CMC, you never sit CMC. It just doesn't happen, of course. But Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, definitely sittable material there. And then as far as the Jets go, I wouldn't start Aaron Rodgers. The defense is just really good with San Francisco. Even if he starts, he'll get like 180 yards and like 2 touchdowns and an interception. That's going to do you no good. So I would start Breece Hall, and I would probably still put up Garrett Wilson just for the factor of, like I said before with Malik Neighbors, if he's thrown to anybody, it's Garrett Wilson. And 2 touchdowns on a wide receiver looks way better than 2 touchdowns on a quarterback. So I love Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and George Kittle and Deebo Samuel. So the quarterback and quarterback position and anybody else for the Jets is kind of just I'm off on them. And no Brandon Ayuk.
So I kind of was laughing yesterday before the game because I was like, it's funny those people that jumped for the Ravens. Excuse me. My bad. The people that jumped for the Ravens defense or the Chiefs defense, like, were you really starting them last night? But in the same respect, like, you had to draft Christian McCaffrey. You had to draft Breece Hall. And it's tough to start those guys. I mean, you're starting them, but it's tough. Like, this is going to be a tough matchup. It's going to be, the points are going to be few and far between. I wouldn't be excited to have anyone in this matchup, quite frankly. But what are you going to do if you drafted those Deebo Samuels? You drafted those guys, so you're going to start them and just see how it plays out and hope they get you a touchdown. But quite frankly, I'm really scared of this matchup. All right. Well, he was in the comments. Let's go ahead and see him live. Get yourself ready. Time for a little workout as we close things out with Fourth and Flex podcast. Flex starts of the week.
Flex starts of the week. Oh my goodness. We are back. It's your boy Bandy here from the Fourth and Flex Fantasy Football Podcast. And it's that time of year again. We've been waiting patiently. We've been salivating over those rosters, and we made it back. Now, week 1 version of Bandy's Flex starts of the week. Let's get into it, baby. Starting off first on my list, man, a guy who's on a new team, a guy named Zach Moss. Okay, Zach Moss, you got him late in drafts. That's all right, man. He's the main bell cow for the Bengals. Lots of talk over Chase Brown, but I think Zach Moss is going to be a great fit for your flex spot in week 1, baby. Moving right along to the next guy. If you ever watch our show, man, you've been listening to me brag about this guy so much, and that is Curtis Samuel, okay? Over on the Bills now, a guy who's never really got a chance with a good quarterback. Now he's got QB1 in Josh Allen. Start Curtis Samuel in your flex spot for that little bit of Debo-esque type offense. Moving on to the last guy on my list, I would be remiss if I didn't discuss somebody from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's not who you think. It's Chris Godwin, okay? They put Chris Godwin back in the slot. This is a guy that everybody's been sleeping on, and for good reason. He's had a rough couple of seasons, but hey, Godwin back in the slot, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he is going to get it, okay? Got the Commanders in week 1. Chris Godwin, baby. Surprises are coming, okay? Hey, we back, baby. We back. NFL, fantasy football. Let's go out there, let's win some championships, and let's show them how it's done, okay? I'll see you again next week for Bandy's Flex starts of the week, baby. We back.
Woo-wee. That's the way you close it out, Bandy. I'm ready, bro. Let's go. Quick update on the Friday night football score is 26-24 Packers, and that's in the third quarter with 11 minutes left, so lots of time. Might have a little fantasy bonanza on our hands before it's over, so let's get the hell off and enjoy football. Appreciate you all. Don't forget, check us out on Sunday. Bring us those lineup questions. We're here for you, even though Freddie, don't trust his outtakes because he don't know what the hell he's talking about because he's watching Beetlejuice. All right, we appreciate you, and we are out.